Good morning all. Thank you to DAC Beechcroft for hosting us today, and thank you to techUK for inviting us to another one of your events. My name is Lorna Ingwell, and I am the Senior Researcher at Tussell, a scale-up based in London, who are the market's trusted source on data and insights on government contracts and expenditure. We offer a subscription service to a market intelligence platform on government procurement. My aim today is to set the scene, looking at the size and shape of the public sector ICT market in the Southwest, and looking at the top players and routes to market in the region. Very briefly, for those of you who haven't heard of us before, we are the market's trusted source on government contracts and expenditure. We count a range of the biggest suppliers to government as our customers, as well as half of the government's strategic suppliers. The biggest testament to our data is that it's used by the government itself and the press to answer procurement-related questions. In fact, if you've read any article recently on the dreaded RAC, the failed HS2, or if you're wondering how much was really spent on COVID contracts, it's probably our data that was used as a base for those stories. And it's also significant to mention that techUK invite us to events such as these to give a true picture of the market and to speak to you all about ICT procurement. At Tussell's core, we take open data and we make it useful. We turn thousands of sources of information into actionable insights. We aggregate, cleanse, and consolidate to form the cleanest data on the market. Hence why the government itself use us to answer questions about their own procurement. Today, we are talking about tech procurement in the Southwest. This is tailored to your region to give you a view of some of the untapped opportunities that might be on your doorstep and help you learn how to leverage your position as a local supplier selling to a local buyer in the region. So let's start today's analysis by looking at the wider public sector ICT market. This chart breaks down ICT procurement in England over the past 5 years, with the Southwest's procurement highlighted in green at the bottom. Looking at the market overall, we can see that ICT procurement sat at £15.4 billion in the most recent financial year. The market grew quite substantially during COVID, as the need to keep a physical distance increased the use of digital tools. But what's interesting is that these gains have locked into the market and held steady over the past 2 years, meaning that the market is at an all-time high. We are living in an era of big government, with intervention essential across areas such as defence, climate change, and an ageing population. So tapping into the public sector market is a guaranteed source of revenue throughout all of this. We can see the same trend here happening at a regional level on the next slide. Following the rest of England, ICT procurement in the Southwest grew considerably during the pandemic and locked in those gains, with the region accounting for £519 million of ICT procurement spend in the most recent fiscal year. Most of the growth in the Southwest is coming from the NHS portion, which is at the bottom in blue. And this has slightly eaten away at the proportion that was spent by local government. This isn't to say that local government is getting any smaller. It's not. It's just growing less fast than some of the other areas of government in the region. Even the proportion spent on ICT by blue light, seen in orange on the chart, accounts for £70 million of ICT revenue for suppliers. What we see is an addressable market for suppliers to take advantage of and opportunities spread out across all public sector buyers in the region. But how does the Southwest compare to the rest of England? Focusing on just NHS and local government spend for the rest of the analysis, we have plotted the South West against other regions in England on this scatter chart. We see in green that the region has spent just below the average amount on ICT procurement in the most recent fiscal year, at £427 million, and encountered 6% of growth over a 2-year period. It is important for suppliers to see where in the country the opportunities lie, and for buyers in regions to compare themselves and their ICT investment nationally and spot whether they are falling behind in digital investments. So, as a region, there is a chunky amount of money to go after within local government and the NHS, but there is still potential for further growth, as we have seen across some other regions in the UK. So, now to compare local government and NHS in the region. This chart compares the ICT procurement by the two buyer types in the South West, side by side, and here you can really see how flat that local government spend is over the period, at about £180 million. In comparison, you can see the NHS has more than doubled since pre-COVID levels. This is a trend that we've seen across the rest of the UK. An interesting note is that NHS is spending more with less suppliers, about a fifth of the distinct supplier relationships than local government have, meaning that the contracts behind this expenditure are much chunkier in the NHS space than they are in local government. The line in this chart at the top represents how much proportion of their overall procurement budget these buyers are spending on ICT. What we can see is that the NHS is spending about 7% of their procurement budget on ICT suppliers, whereas local government is spending a slightly lower proportion at about 3%. The main takeaway from this slide is that different buyers in the region have very different procurement profiles, different growth levels, different areas of focus, and different volumes of relationships. So knowing the difference between the different buyers and having a granular view of the market can help you understand where to build relationships and focus your resources. Going deeper into the buyer view,